The most awaited notification by CBDT was released recently on 10th August 2022, only to increase more complications for the charitable organizations, yet at the same time to ensure accountability and transparency in the process of social welfare. I am Ashish Agarwal from Team NGO Enabler, and today I will discuss in detail the notification so released. If you remember, one of the most important amendments in the budget 2022, as told by our Honorable Finance Minister, was maintenance of books of accounts by charitable institutions. However, the same was not specified then. With this recent notification now, the ministry has specified an exhaustive and comprehensive list of documents and records to be maintained by charitable organizations. With many expert views circulating, the notification is being seen as a much needed step which will strengthen the documentation and accounting structure of the NGOs. So let's see what are those list of documents and records specified in case of charitable organizations. First and foremost, primary books of accounts such as cash book, ledgers, original copies of the bills, copies of counterfoils of receipts, and many more such documents. Then comes separate record for any business activities carried out by the organization. Record related to all projects carried out by the organization. Record related to all donations and other receipts during the year. Records pertaining to all payments made during the year. Separate details of corpus donations received and related records. Separate records of donation received by the religious organizations towards renovation and repair of religious places as notified in section 80G. Record of any loans and borrowings taken by the organization. Records of properties, both movable and immovable, held by the organization. And last comes the records related to specified persons referred to in section 13 subsection 3 of the Act, which includes author, trustees, governing body members, relatives of such persons, donors who made a substantial contribution of Rs 50,000 and other persons as mentioned in the said section. Let's directly check what exactly the notification is to say about each of these records in detail. We'll request all my viewers to please be there with us till the last so that you don't miss upon any important documents and details discussed in the video.
Here you can see that with this notification, a new rule 17AA has been inserted in the income tax rules 1962 after rule 17A, where the books of accounts and other documents to be kept and maintained has been specified for charitable organizations. So now all organizations registered under section 1023C and 12AB need to maintain the documents so specified by this notification. Let's discuss each of the requirements one by one. First and foremost, you can see the primary books of accounts that has been listed are cash book, ledger, journal, copies of receipts or bills issued to the organization, and the counterfoils of the receipts or bills issued by the organization to any person. Apart from this, it has been specified that any other books of accounts which can be a basis for explaining the transactions that has been entered into by the organization should also be maintained for true and fair view. Then it has been laid down that similar books of accounts is required to be maintained separately for all business activities being carried out by the charitable organization. Next comes the details of the projects, records, and institutions run by the organization. Sometimes it so happens that under a single organization, multiple projects are being carried out, or it runs a number of organizations. For example, Trust ABC is running a school, a hostel, and are also FCRA registered. Next comes the details of records and institutions run by the organization. Sometimes it so happens that under a single organization, multiple projects are being executed or it runs a number of organizations. For example, Trust ABC is running a school, a hostel, and being FCRA registered, it also carries out certain charitable projects. So, the Trust ABC now need to maintain a clear and distinct records of each project and institutions along with the name, address, and the objectives for which the project is being carried out or the institution was established. Next point is related to record of all income received by the organization, including voluntary contribution, income from property, or any other income. In the case of voluntary contribution, the name of the donor, address, PAN, and Aadhaar number is required to be maintained. Apart from this, I would also like you all to remember the additional requirements to fill Form 10BD, such as the mode and purpose of donation, type of donation, which should also be maintained. Now comes the details of the payments, that is the application of income. So, the notification lays out that whatever payment is done from the income so received by the organization, it is required to maintain the details such as the name and address of the person to whom such payment is made and the purpose for which such payment was done. Moreover, if such payment is done to any other registered charitable organization, I repeat, if such payment is done to any other registered charitable organization, along with the name, address and purpose, the PAN of the organization is also required to be maintained. In our opinion, one should also get hold of the 12AB certificate of the payee organization to ensure complete compliance. Similar details are also required to be maintained in case of any payments are made outside India to any person by the organization. With this, the details of application of income does not come to an end. The notification requires the organization to maintain the records separately for that part of the income which the organization was unable to spend and for which option has to be exercised or amount has to be accumulated or set apart during the previous year. The organization need to maintain the details of the reasons availing the option and the purpose of accumulation. In our opinion, if you would have gone through section 11 subsection 2 and our video on form 10, even a copy of resolution is also required to be maintained where the decision regarding the accumulation was passed. In line with this point, the details related to the application of income ends with talking about the records of investment done by the organization which may or may not be in accordance with those modes specified in section 11 subsection 5 of the Act. Next comes the details of the payments, that is the application of income made out of the income of preceding year for which the option was exercised or amount was accumulated under section 11 subsection 2 for specified purposes. The notification lays out that whatever payment is done from such deemed application of preceding years, whether it may be as per explanation 1 to clause 2 of section 11 subsection 1 or as per section 11 subsection 2, it is required to maintain the details such as the year and amount of application or deemed application as the case may be, name and address of the person to whom such payment is made and the purpose for which the payment was done. Apart from this, similar details related to the money invested out of such application or accumulation, whether or not in the modes specified under section 11 subsection 5 has to be maintained but separately for both types of investments. Point number 5 and 6 of the notification talks about almost similar details to be kept for corpus donations and donations received during the year by religious organizations towards repairs or renovation of religious places, which is treated as corpus. One need to maintain the name, address, PAN and Aadhaar of the donor. Along with that, like I mentioned earlier, in case of voluntary donations, I would also like you all to remember again the additional requirements to fill Form 10BD, such as the mode and purpose of donation, type of donation, and many more such details which should also be maintained. Now, if you are making any payments out of the corpus donations so received, then you shall need to maintain the amount of payment, name and address of the person to whom it is paid, and the object for which such payment was done. In case of any payments to other registered organizations, PAN is also required to be kept. In fact, keeping their 12AB or 1023 certificate handy will also be useful. Then, the details of investments made out of such corpus donations have to be maintained, but separately for those deposited as per the modes of investment laid down under section 11 subsection 5 of the Act and those not. I repeat, the details of investments made out of such corpus donations have to be maintained, but separately for those deposited as per the modes of investments laid down under section 11 subsection 5 of the Act and those not. This, in our opinion, is being asked so that those investments which are in accordance with section 11 subsection 5 can easily be tagged to match the amount accumulated under section 11 subsection 2. If suppose the money was applied in any preceding year and the organization deposits it back to restore the corpus fund, then separate details of the form and modes in which such amount was reinvested. If suppose the money was applied in any preceding year and the organization deposits it back to restore the corpus fund, then separate details of the form and modes in which such amount was reinvested needs to be maintained and ensure whether it's as per the modes specified. It's necessary if the organization wants to claim that amount as an application of income because in the year of utilization, the same was disallowed. In point number 7, the records related to loans and borrowings taken by the organization has been laid down. The organization need to maintain separately the amount and date of loan or borrowing, the amount and date of repayment, along with the name, address, permanent account number and Aadhaar number of the lender. Apart from that, even the details related to the amount spent out of such borrowing has to be maintained, such as the name and address of the person to whom such payment was done and the purpose for which it was paid to him or her. Similarly, for the preceding year also, these details shall be required to be maintained along with the repayment details. Now, the last two records mandated by the notification is very important and we have been discussing it with many organizations from past few years. Yes, the records related to movable and immovable properties held by the organization and records related to the amounts spent towards the benefit of specified persons such as trustees, relatives of trustees, governing body members and all such persons listed in section 13 subsection 3 of the Act. First, let's see about immovable and movable properties. For immovable properties, the nature and address of the properties, cost of acquisition of the assets, and the registration documents of the asset are required to be maintained. Please ensure the valid title is there in the name of the organization. Along with that, the records and details related to the transfer of such properties will also be required to be maintained along with the details whether the net consideration was utilized to purchase the new capital asset, or for movable properties, the nature and the cost of acquisition is all what you are required to maintain. Coming to the payments made to the specified persons referred to in section 13 subsection 3 of the Act, the name, address, permanent account number and Aadhaar number of such persons are required to be maintained separately. Along with that, the date of payment, nature of payment, and an evidence or supporting documents to justify that such payment was not directly or indirectly for the benefit of such persons is also required to be maintained. We have always been telling the organization that the payments can surely be made to the specified persons, but the reasonableness and the basis of such payments should always be ensured. In addition to what has been specifically mentioned in the notification, any other document that the organization might feel can be of relevance should also be maintained. All such books of accounts and records can be kept in digital form or manually and has to be maintained at the registered office of the organization. In case any change in address within 7 days, the same has to be intimated to the jurisdictional assessing officer in writing. Such records are required to be kept and maintained for a period of 10 years from the end of the relevant assessment year.
So indeed, a huge list of documents and records have been specified, which for the small size NGOs might prove to be a costly affair, as maintaining such a vast list of documents will require hiring accounting experts. So now, since the documents discussed today are made mandatory to be maintained by the charitable organizations, they will be required to do so for ensuring compliance with the Act, as well as retaining the income tax exempt status, which might be revoked if any of these records are not found to the satisfaction of the relevant authorities. Though, in our opinion, most of these documents were already being maintained by such organizations, but after specifying it in the Act now, they need to be more vigilant and cleaner in the maintenance of the records. I repeat, most of these documents were already being maintained by the charitable organizations, but after specifying it in the Act now, they need to be more vigilant and cleaner in the maintenance of the records. So get back and review all your documents, records and other data to ensure you are compliant with the new norms laid down by the notification. This is all for today. Hope you all will start reviewing and filling whatever gaps are found in the maintenance of the records as specified in the notification.